Hello, everyone. I am Yash, and welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Valley, where we visit and learn about the religious centers in the Bay Area and uncover the human stories behind them. Today, I am at the San Jose Buddhist Church, Betsuin, and it has been here for over a century. It is part of one of the three historical Japantowns in the whole United States. So come with me and join me when we learn about the place here and the people who make it. So could you just tell us a little bit about Buddhism, how you got introduced to the religion and why you became a reverend to it?
I married into it. So my wife grew up and was coming to this temple. She grew up just a few blocks from here. And so when our kids started to be old enough to come temple, I started listening and understanding the message and appreciating the message. I grew up Catholic, so this very different environment for me, but I really enjoyed it. The message spoke to me. And after many years of study, I finally decided that I wanted to take it further and started doing a more formal education with the Institute of Buddhist Studies and eventually went to Kyoto to get my ordination.
That's very interesting. So with so much religious background, like what sort of knowledge about this religion brought you in and what has it taught you?
I think mostly what it's about is seeing the world as it really is, to not be so worried about how you experienced it in the past, but rather be open to new interpretation, open to realizing that the way you see the world is through the filters of who taught you, who raised you, where you were raised, what traditions you were raised in, and so on, and realize that not all of that is showing you the world as it really is. And those filters may be affecting the way that you think about other people or other things. But what we do have here is a family community who many of these families, the parents grew up in this tradition, so they bring their kids to Dharma school or Sunday school. There's community organizations. We have the community youth service that is part of the Japanese American culture here in this community. We have our own youth group here called the Buddhist Association that really helps to bring it to go together and have them experience Buddhism, but at the same time have a good time. So that's a little bit of like of a calling to them to have a good time with it. Because, for instance, I've been raised in other traditions, I will often use sources from those traditions in my Dharma messages, in my talks. So I've been known to quote the Bible or the Quran or the Torah to emphasize a point. Part of it being that as it goes, the religions aren't really all that different in their message. If you want to treat people nicely, treat people the way you like to be treated, that's the basic message of just about every religion. You know, the challenge is how to get it to grow, and that's what we're working on now, because all organized religions are really facing the same question. And it's around the world. It's not just in the United States. It's not just with Buddhism. So what we're trying to do is make sure the message is understandable, make sure that the message speaks to everyday life, and it's not just doctrine, you know, not just something come in and learn these words or learn this parable or whatever, but rather, how do I use this in my everyday life? How do I use this to make my life better? It's very important because this religion comes from Japan, and it came here because the Japanese immigrants in the late 1800s were missing that element of their life because the religion hadn't been brought over right away. So they went to Kyoto and asked that ministers be assigned here, and it grew here. And because of that, it really enriched the community, it strengthened the community as they assimilated into the U.S., as they assimilated into America. They were able to at least have their community centers, have their religious centers, and help them find the strength, especially during World War II when they were incarcerated. This temple and grounds were a sort of a way station for people coming back from the internment camps. They lived here for a number of weeks or months until they found a place to go to. So, because this building has been here since 1937. This organization has been here since 1902. This is not a new place. It's a place of community and place of Buddhism, a central place of Buddhism for everybody to experience.
I'm here with Kenji, a member of the San Jose Betsuin. community. And so could you please tell us like how you got started with Buddhism and uh, what you learned from it?
Well, from generations, even beyond my grandparents, my grandfather had a laundry here in San Jose in probably 1920s. But I've been a Buddhist all my life, and what I get from it is a guide on how to live life according to the way the world works. What the Buddha did when he was trying to discover the answers to old age, sickness, and death is after his awakening or enlightenment. He based his truth on the natural functions of the world, and he called that the Dharma or the teachings of truth. And so the advantage, I think, of Buddhism is that it follows natural laws and um, puts it in a way where emphasizes that spirituality is part of natural life. Some of the teachings are a little difficult to understand sometimes because most of the written things and the things that the Buddha said were done centuries ago when people had a different view of life. And so now, with our 20th and 21st century knowledge of science in the world, we can explain it in a much more clear way. And science seems to validate all the things that the Buddha talked about.
How does the service, Sunday service, coming here, how does that play a role in your life? And how do you see your community here?
The community lives in a certain way, and this is what I've been trying to do, is that my parents and grandparents lived in a way in which doctrine was lived, taken internally. And so rather than keeping the doctrine and the many complicated thoughts in mind, the basic thing is living a life of gratitude. This sect of Buddhism, this school of Buddhism, is based for ordinary people, not for monks and nuns. So we don't have practices that try to achieve a certain awakening. It's based on realizing what we have already received. So when we receive something, the response is gratitude or thank you. And that expands to the spiritual world when we use this term, Namo Amida Butsu. I appreciate, I'm grateful that I'm part of all of this life, all that I can't really comprehend. And so coming here, the environment is such, the way the temple is situated inside, the quiet, the bell, the chanting, puts me in a place where all this is reminded. We only meet on Sundays because in America, Sundays are important for some other religions. For Buddhism, it's a daily practice. Every morning and evening, we have a home altar. During the day, this term Namo Amida Butsu is a reminder, just verbally and mentally, that we are in the spiritual space. And so religion is not something that we look at more special days or times, but it's a constant reminder that all of ordinary life is spiritual.
So hello, I'm here with May Komamoto, the superintendent of the Dharma School at San Jose Betsuin. Could you please begin by telling us how your journey with Buddhism started and then what you learned from it?
It wasn't a direct story. My family is part Seichunoye and part Jodo Shinshu, which is the same temple as here. And from Southern California, I grew up going to Seichunoye, which is another church that's down the street here. It's more of, I believe, a Shinto religion. And they also base their teachings on gratitude, as Kenji Sensei just mentioned, that we do here at Jodo Shinshu, and went to Sunday schools and didn't really learn all the teachings. It was more of a social environment, but I think that's kind of what it's like here at San Jose Buddhist Church. The kids come here because they enjoy, the company of their peers. The families come for the activities. There are clubs that are associated with the church, so the kids get involved in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. There's a lot of connections outside of the temple itself where the students see each other. So there's CYS, that's part of the Japanese community. They see each other frequently and they sort of absorb the teachings because they're there together. So that's kind of the environment we want to cultivate here, where the students enjoy the space. And many times the graduates, we used to have the graduates do a speech at the end of their time here, and they talk about what has affected them by coming to Dharma school. And we're going to try to do that more, but it has always been like this is their second home. They come here a lot and enjoy, the teachers and just getting to know other families.
So I got into Buddhism early. My mother got into Nichiren Buddhism. So we were raised around the temples and as a child, I didn't soak in many of the values, I think, but just the community, the sense of community. So Jodo Shinshu is also Japanese Buddhism that focuses on community and gratitude.
What does that represent to you coming here every Sunday?
I get a lot out of the services. Like a lot of our values are encoded into the different rituals and things like that. And then after we gather and we talk, there's a Dharma talk that's usually got some good ideas and wisdom, things we can kind of put into practice. So there's a practical emphasis. And then so this is kind of just like like the main kind of activity, but there are many other activities such as classes or other social gatherings and things like that. So the services are sort of a thread that then branches out into lots of other activities. I think the emphasis is on gratitude. So instead of like wanting, say, a new car or a new, I want a promotion at work or something like that, pay attention to what I actually already have and feel grateful for that. And then that sense of striving for things can be settled and there's a contentment, and then like a focus on other people and how can we help them and things like that. It comes from that when I'm not always like, I need that next sort of thing. So gratitude, I would say, is
Phyllis, that's okay. Don't worry.
primarily important to me.
Hello. So I'm here with Phyllis Sugimoto, and could you please explain how you got introduced to Buddhism, what you learned from it, and what is your role in the San Jose Betsuin?
Well, I was born into this because I was born and raised here in San Jose. So when I say I was born into it, my parents were married here. My grandparents were members of the temple. So I started coming to, at that time it was called Sunday school. It was actually on Sunday, but now they call it Dharma school because I guess it's more PC to call it Dharma school instead of Sunday school. So I started in, just like Dennis Akizuki, the minister's assistant that you probably met. Okay, Dennis and I are a year apart. So we pretty much grew up through the system here, through the Sunday school. Yeah. And what's my role? I'm involved with what they call the Buddhist Women's Association. I'm involved with them. We support the temple in various things, fundraising, that's main, and then just helping out wherever we can. And then I also now just started this past year, being a greeter, which I really enjoy. So I like being in meeting people when they come in. I'm trying to get to know people's names, which is always a challenge, but I enjoy doing that. And so, and then I just help out with the temple wherever they need it. I don't know if you're aware that we have a youth organization that's called Junior YBA, Junior Young Buddhist Association. That's basically high school age. That group is very large. It's one of our largest organizations of the temple. But if you look at the membership, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Like, how big is it? Like how many people?
Like it's over 100 kids. Okay, that's large. That's large. Because if you get the number for the Dharma school kids, I don't know that we have 100 kids in Dharma school. So to have over 100 kids in Junior YBA is huge. But you're going to also find out that a lot of them are not temple. They join it because it's a very good social gathering, social event, which we support, but it's not really all Buddhists that are part of it. So how do you get them to stay with us, after they graduate high school? That's a good question that we've been challenged with that for years. We've tried different things. The other thing is if you don't have kids, how do you still stay connected to the temple? Those are challenges. I don't know the answer to that, but I do see different people coming in on Sundays, which is great.
That's very good.
Because when growing up with this, we were basically a Japanese American, Japanese temple, but we had to change. You have to, because that's San Jose, that's that's California, that's the West Coast. We had to change. So we invite everyone. Reverend Michael Jones, he and Elaine do the Mina no Mura, the LGBTQ. I don't know if he mentioned that to you.
Yeah.
So they started that up, which trying to be inclusive, trying to let people know we welcome everyone. Yeah.
Could you repeat what you said about the marriages and the generations that happened in this?
So my parents were married here. This is after the war. So they were married in 1948. My sister, who is married to Reverend Michael Jones, okay, they were married, I forget what year, you're going to have to ask them. They were also married here at the temple. And then their daughter was just married last year. So we have 3 generations. There are some families you'll find in the temple where there's 3 generations that were actually married physically here at the temple. And actually, when we were growing up, people always said Chinatown. They never said Japantown. And so we had to try to tell people, well, it's really a Japanese community, you know. It might have been Chinatown at one time, but it's basically a Japantown. And I don't know if they explained to you, but the Wesley Methodist Church, which is just on the other side of Jackson, okay, it basically started out, I believe, like us, the Japanese Americans, you know, there was a Methodist religion and we're Buddhist.
Hello, I'm here with Matthew, a member of the San Jose Betsuin. And could you please describe how you got into Buddhism and how you found this community here?
So actually, it's a funny story. So a lot of people in this community, you tend to have converts where this is their first experience of Buddhism, or people who are born into Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. I actually came from a parallel Buddhist tradition, more Taiwanese style. That's how I was introduced. So a lot of the conceits are very similar. Different kind of chanting because Chinese transliterated Sanskrit versus Japanese transliterated Sanskrit. But it's also Pure Land, just like our San Jose Betsuin. So I originally got interested in Buddhism up in Oregon. And when I came back down to the South Bay after I was done with my college experience, I was like, oh, I really like Buddhism. Let me try to find a community in this area. So I kind of jumped around from different schools and I found this community. And really a big part of it was the community aspect, that everybody's so welcoming and warm. And teachings are very adjacent to what I'm familiar with. A little different practice, but everybody's okay with me kind of doing the things I'm more used to doing.
What can you apply from Buddhism into real life?
Well, I think that there's a lot that one could apply from Buddhism into real life. I do think there's a very strong therapeutic slant to Buddhism, or one could argue that therapy has a very strong Buddhist slant, that a lot of schools of therapy actually adopted elements of Buddhism, or you could find a lot of parallel spirits within them. I think first and foremost, if we go back even to the most basic teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, Buddha Shakyamuni, I think there's a lot of Stoic kind of values of understanding that it is my attachments to things that make me impacted. Or as Albert Ellis, the famous therapist, said, it's not so much that I'm impacted by events themselves, I'm impacted by my interpretations of events, that I want things to be a certain way, or things must be a certain way, when actually I just want it to be that way. It would be optimal if I didn't encounter this, but I can't really control that, you know, and so having that kind of letting go. And I think within the more Mahayana sphere of things that we are kind of a part of, I think there's a stronger element of this ability of like, I too have this inner Buddha nature that could really come out and, you know, help people and be in the world and really be of assistance to people, not just this kind of self-oriented search of enlightenment, that I am on this path with other people to assist other people, not just myself. So this greater sort of compassionate oriented, community oriented spirit. And I do think there's an overarching kind of spiritual element in Pure Land of sort of putting our trust in Amida Buddha that I think also has a sort of spiritual effect where like I'm able to be like, all right, I could only do so much. Let me see if Amida Buddha could help me. Or, you know, just put my hand, you know, Amida Buddha take the wheel kind of a thing, for like to be a little bit more profane and joking about it. So I'm a therapist in training, actually. Yeah. So there are a lot of parallels there, and I would argue between the two. And I think, you know, just like any profession, I feel that, you know, there's certain times where you encounter professionally or personally, like, man, I feel a bit overwhelmed. I don't know what's happening. You know, I'm worried. I'm anxious. I'm this or that. And I just go back to the teachings of the masters. You know, we're all human, so sometimes I'm better at than other moments, or sometimes I'm really able to take on the teachings authentically. Other times, you know, I have my human moments, but I think that's also part of the teachings of Buddhism, that it's okay for me to kind of be human and feel my feelings. But I think overall, like, it just allows me to be like, all right, I could feel my feelings, but also understand that me going like it must be this way is adding on to my suffering, and that I have these wider teachings, these wider lessons that could really give me peace of mind, or at least a moment of contentment. Maybe not a contentment all the time, but at least a moment.